Hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Josh and you're watching our history. Today we are continuing with our series on Shaka, and we're discussing the scholarship surrounding Shaka and the biographical sources. Scholarship in recent years has revised views on the sources on Shaka's reign. The earliest are two eyewitness accounts written by European adventurer traders who met Shaka during the first 4 years of his reign. Nathaniel Isaacs published his travels and adventures in Eastern Africa in 1836, creating a picture of Shaka as a degenerate and a pathological monster, which survives in modified forms to this day. Isaacs was aided in this by Henry Francis Finn, whose diary, actually a rewritten collage of various papers, was edited by James Stewart only in 1950. Their accounts may be balanced by the rich resource of oral histories collected around 1900 by the same James Stewart, now published in 6 volumes as the James Stewart Archive. Stewart's early 20th century work was continued by D. McMalcolm in 1950. These other sources, such as A.T. Bryant, gives us a more Zulu-centered picture. Most popular accounts are based on E.A. Ritter's novel Shaka Zulu of 1955, a pot-boiling romance that was re-edited into something more closely resembling a history. John Wright, a history professor at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg, Julian Cobbing, and Dan Wiley, Rhodes University, Grahamstown, are among a number of the writers who have modified these stories. Various modern historians writing on Shaka and the Zulu point to the uncertain nature of Finn and Isaac's account of Shaka's reign. A general reference work in the field is Donald Morris's The Washing of the Spears, which notes that the sources as a whole for his historical era are not the best. Morris references a large number of sources, including Stewart and A.T. Bryant's Olden Times in Zululand and Natal, which is based on 4 decades of interviews of tribal sources. After sifting through these sources and noting their strengths and weaknesses, Morris generally credits Shaka with a large number of military and social innovations. This is the general consensus in the field. A 1998 study by historian Carolyn Hamilton summarizes much of the scholarship on Shaka towards the dawn of the 21st century, in areas ranging from ideology, politics and culture, to the use of his name and image in a popular South African theme park, Shaka Land. It argues that in many ways, the image of Shaka has been invented in the modern era according to whatever agenda person holds. Military historians of the Zulu War describe Zulu fighting methods and tactics, including authors Ian Knight and Robin Edgerton. General histories of Southern Africa include Noel Mostert's Frontiers, and a detailed account of the results from the Zulu expansion, J.D. Omer Cooper's The Zulu Aftermath, which advances the traditional Mfecane and Defacane theory. The Mfecane history and the legacy surrounding it. The increased military efficiency led to more and more clans being incorporated into Shaka Zulu's empire, while other tribes moved away to be out of range of Shaka's impis. The ripple effect caused by these mass migrations would become known through only the 20th century as the Mfecane and Defacane, or annihilation. Shaka's army set out on a massive program of expansion, killing or enslaving those who resisted in the territories he conquered. His impis, or warrior regiments, were rigorously disciplined. Failure in battle meant death. At the time of his death, Shaka ruled over 250,000 people and could muster more than 50,000 warriors. His 10-year-long kingship resulted in a massive number of deaths, mostly due to the disruptions the Zulu caused in neighboring tribes, although the exact death toll is a matter of scholarly dispute. Further unquantifiable deaths occurred during mass tribal migrations to escape his armies. The Mfecane produced Mzilikazi of the Kumalo, a general of Shaka's. He fled Shaka's employ and in turn conquered an empire in Zimbabwe after clashing with European groups like the Boers. The settling of Mzilikazi's people, the Amandebele or Matabele, in the south of Zimbabwe with the concomitant driving of the Mashana into the north caused a tribal conflict that still resonates today. Other notable figures to arise from the Mfecane Defacane include Sosangane, who expanded the Zulu area into what is now Mozambique and Zwagendaba. Disruptions of the Mfecane Defacane. The theory of the Mfecane holds that the aggressive expansion of Shaka's armies caused a brutal chain reaction across the southern areas of the continent, as dispossessed tribe after tribe turned on their neighbors in a deadly cycle of flight and conquest. Some scholars contend that this theory must be treated with caution, as it generally neglects several other factors such as the impact of European encroachment, slave trading, and expansion in that area of southern Africa around the same time. Normal estimates for the death toll range from 1 million to 2 million. These numbers, however, are controversial. According to Julian Cobbing, the development of the view that Shaka was a monster responsible for the devastation is based on the need of apartheid-era historians to justify the apartheid regime's racist policies. Other scholars acknowledge distortion of the historical record by apartheid supporters and shady European traders seeking to cover their tracks, but dispute the revisionist approach, noting that stories of cannibalism, raiding, burning of villages, or mass slaughters were not developed out of thin air, but based on the clearly documented accounts of hundreds of black victims and refugees. Confirmation of such accounts can also be seen in modern archaeology of the village of Lepalong, an entire settlement built underground to shelter remnants of the Kwema people from 1827 to 1836 against the tide of disruption that engulfed the region during Shakan times. William Rubinstein wrote that Western guilt over colonialism have also accounted for much of this distortion over what pre-illiterate societies actually were like, as does the wish to avoid anything which smacks of racism, even when this distorting the actual and often appalling facts of life in many pre-illiterate societies. Rubinstein also notes, one element in Shaka's destruction was to create a vast artificial desert around his domain. To make the destruction complete, organized bands of Zulu murderers regularly patrolled the waste, hunting for any stray men and running them down like a wild pig. An area 200 miles or 300 kilometers to the north of the center of the state, 300 miles 480 kilometers to the west, and 500 miles 800 kilometers to the south was ravaged and depopulated. South African historian Dan Wiley has expressed skepticism of the portrayal of Shaka as a pathological monster, destroying everything within his reach. He argues that attempts to distort his life and image have been systematic, beginning with the first European visitors in his kingdom. One visitor, Nathaniel Isaacs, wrote to Henry Finn, a white adventurer, trader, and quasi-local chieftain, "Here you are, about to publish. Do you make Shaka out to be as bloodthirsty as you can? It helps swell out the work and make it interesting." Finn, according to Wiley, complied with the request, and Wiley notes that he had an additional motive to distort Shaka image. He applied for a huge grant of land, an area allegedly depopulated by Shaka's savagery. Finn stated that Shaka had killed 1 million people. You will still find this figure and higher repeated in today's literature. However, Finn had no way of knowing any such thing. It was a thumbsuck based on a particular view of Shaka. Shaka as a kind of genocidal maniac, an unresisting killing machine. But why the inventive lie? Finn was bidding for a stretch of land, which allegedly had been depopulated by Shaka. He insinuated Shaka didn't deserve that land anyway, because he was such a brute, while he, Finn, was a lonely, morally upright pioneer of civilization. Michal Lesniewski has criticized Wiley for some of his attempts to revise Western thinking of Shaka. Physical descriptions. Sources tend to agree he had a strong, muscular body and was not fat. He was tall and his skin tone was dark brown. Shaka's enemies described him as ugly in some respects. He had a big nose, according to Baleka of Kwabe, as told by her father. He also had 2 prominent front teeth. Her father also told Baleka that Shaka spoke as though his tongue were too big for his mouth. Many said he spoke with a speech impediment. There is an anecdote that Shaka joked with one of his friends, Magaye, that he could not kill Magaye because he would be laughed at. Supposedly, if he killed Magaye, It would appear to be out of jealousy because Magaye was so handsome and Shaka himself was ugly with a protruding forehead. In Zulu culture, the figure of Shaka still sparks interest among not only the contemporary Zulu but many worldwide who have encountered the tribe and its history. The current tendency appears to be to lionize him. Popular film and other media have certainly contributed to his appeal. Certain aspects of the traditional Zulu culture still revere the dead monarch, as the typical praise song attests. The praise song is one of the most widely used poetic forms in Africa, applying not only to spirits but to men, animals and plants and even towns. He is Shaka the Unshakable, thunderer while cittering, son of Menzi. He is the bird that preys on other birds, the battle axe that excels over other battle axes in sharpness. He is the long-strided pursuer, the son of Ndaba, who pursued the sun and the moon. He is the great hubbub on the rocks of Nkandla, where elephants take shelter when the heavens frown. Other Zulu sources are sometimes critical of Shaka, and numerous negative images abound in Zulu oral history. When Shaka's mother Nandi died, for example, the monarch ordered a massive outpouring of grief, including mass executions, forbidding the planting of crops or the use of milk, and the killing of all pregnant women and their husbands. Oral sources record that it is this period of devastation, a singular Zulu, a man named Gala, eventually stood up to Shaka and objected to these measures, pointing out that Nandi was not the first person to die in Zululand. Taken aback by such candid talk, the Zulu king is supposed to have called off the destructive edicts, rewarding the blunt teller of truths with the gift of cattle. The figure of Shaka thus remains an ambiguous one in African oral tradition, defying simplistic depictions of the Zulu king as a heroic protean nation builder on the one hand, or a depraved monster on the other. This ambiguity continues to lend the image of Shaka his continued power and influence almost 2 centuries after his death. Thank you very much for watching. If you like the content that we're putting out, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know as soon as a new video is released. Stay safe and stay strong.